Syracuse is topping the charts, but not in a good way. According to the latest national data, Syracuse is again ranked among the top 10 poorest cities in the country. It's number 4 on one of the lists, to be exact. That includes nearly half of all of the children living in the city. And it's not just Syracuse proper. Many nearby rural communities are facing the same problem. And so let's talk about, what do we make of this? What's going on, Anirban?
This has been a persistent issue with Syracuse, right? If you look at the SAIPE data, which I often refer to, the small area income and poverty estimates, the under 18 poverty has remained at 45.6% between 2019 and 2023. About 26% of the city overall, if you take all ages, live under the poverty line. And that's about 11th in the U.S., in the ranking of U.S. Cities with poverty.
So that's very helpful to point out there are different measures.
There are different measures. You can measure it in all cities of all sizes or cities with sizes similar to Syracuse. Either way, the point remains that city of Syracuse remains one of the most poorest cities in U.S. And there are a couple of things here I can think about, and my legal colleague here can point this out if I'm saying something wrong. There's a lot of these TAN funds that just sits there, right? Them temporary assistance for needy families. Apparently, New York is sitting on several millions of dollars of these funds that are not really disbursed. Claudia Tenney bought this up a few years ago, and I wonder why that is the case. And the second thing that I wondered ever since I came to United States about 20 years ago is that why is that our schools and how good those schools are always tied to the income of their parents and the zip codes where they live. Why can't we have schools that have equal resources for everyone? This is a huge step forward to eradicate, like, chronic long-term poverty when there are good schools, no matter what neighborhood you grew up in. So those are the things I kind of think about, like, why is that the case?
But there was another study that just came out. Syracuse City Schools spend on average $10,000 more per pupil than other regional school districts and even national school districts. I mean, New York State has the highest per pupil, the second highest per pupil rate in the country. So we put a lot of money into education in this state. And in the city of Syracuse, it's $33,000 per student that is being paid. My little rural school district, it's only about 27,000. So there is the money is being spent, but the problem is that you can't, kiddos who are hungry, kiddos who are stressed, kiddos who have lived in intergenerational poverty, who are living in substandard housing. I mean, the rent, most people in poverty are renting. Renting does not allow you to build generational wealth. The housing stock in Syracuse is abysmal. And so you put all those things together, and yeah, it's hard for a student to come and be focused and attentive and learn. And of course, without that cycle continues, because if they're not succeeding in their education, then they end up falling behind again when they become adults.
Yeah, it really is a cycle that poor education leads to low income, which leads to poor housing, which circles back to the same. Lisa, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would just say I agree also that this is a multifaceted concern. And Jenny has mentioned several issues, the problem and Anirban schools, housing, although there is some evidence from some other cities that putting high poverty children into low poverty schools has had some significant benefit. So there's and I agree with Jenny, we throw a ton of money at this. I mean, several of these cities, Albany, Rochester, Syracuse, and even Buffalo have had, intractable problems here. And so you do have to ask, what is it about New York? Not that there aren't other states have cities that are similarly situated, but it's so significant here. So anyway, so that's one thing about schools. The other thing that hasn't come up that seems to me to track through many of the cities on this list of persistently, high poverty, high child poverty in particular, is a lack of, reliable, affordable, realistic transportation for people to get to jobs on a reliable basis. And so I would just add that into the mix. The other thing I think on the category of spending a lot of resources but not getting a lot of results, we have a lot of efforts and agencies, both public and private sector, agencies, but doesn't seem to be the kind of coordination among them that has the potential to actually yield results.
Well, it also sort of points up the fact that you've got economic capital, but there's also the thing we used to call social capital, which has to do with not simply having the traditional family structure, but also the sort of benefits that come with that: time on homework, relationships with teachers, ability to support teachers, and so forth. And so, to your point about Syracuse as it compares to other upstate cities, it's Syracuse that continues to land there.